Good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to our third Social Circle City Schools Town Hall meeting. My name is Dr. Robbie Hooker, and I'm proud to be the superintendent of this wonderful school district. And tonight we have a treat for you. We have a representative from DOE, and I will not introduce her. There are other people on this team who will introduce her to you tonight. But I do want to share with you that I'm so proud of this team and getting this together. This is not a one-man show. This takes a team effort, and everyone in every department planned this meeting tonight. And so we're excited. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and then we will do a question and answering session at the end. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Watkins to introduce our guest for today. And Dr. Watkins, if you own, will you please introduce our guest? Thank you.
And Dr. Hooker, this is Dr. Boer, and Dr. Watkins is having some technical difficulties, but she's going to be joining us shortly. So I have the pleasure of introducing Sandra Metz. And Sandra does an awesome job at the Georgia Department of Education, and she has been out to our schools on many occasions to provide training for our teachers, as well as for our counselors on the great resources that are available on the Georgia Department of Education website, specifically in the area of the student longitudinal data system. She does awesome training with the teachers. The teachers always appreciate it. It is always interesting and engaging. And one of the things that we're really excited about with the student longitudinal data system has to do with the information that's available for parents. So when our team that's working on family and community engagement had a chance to reflect on what are the action items that we need to do in order to best prepare our staff and our families and our students in order to accelerate their learning, the tools that are available out on the student longitudinal data system came up. So we really sincerely appreciate, Ms. Metz, that you're here with us tonight. We know that our parents are going to walk away with lots of great information, just as our teachers have. And families, after we have a chance to hear from Ms. Metz, then we will hear from Dr. Hooker, and we're going to have a chance to answer some of those great questions that you've sent in. If you would like to add additional questions, please do so in the Q&A field, and we have an icon below on the screen where you can see what that looks like as you're here in the webinar. So without any further ado, let's go with Ms. Metz. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, thank you for letting me join you guys tonight. It's my pleasure to be here with you. So I'm going to share my screen. I created a PowerPoint for you guys. This is kind of easier to show this. So you see this session is not showing up like it should because we're in a different environment, but this is off your website, Social Circle City Schools. I actually went to the middle school, and then the student and parent resources. This is how you would get to the student and or parent portal. This for SLDS. It's inside Infinite Campus. So you would click there, and you would, as a parent, you would click here to go to Campus Parent. Your students can click here if they're doing some work at home. Generally, they could access that, probably another way when they're on campus to access this. But this is the way you would do it on campus and off campus. You'll have to talk to your district leaders about how to get your username and password for the parent portal. That is distributed through the district. Once you log in by going here as Campus Parent, this is what your screen will look like. You usually come in here, if you go in to the parent portal and Infinite Campus, you're probably checking your child's grades and the calendar and things like that. But you have to scroll down on your screen till you come to SLDS.
Ms. Metz, can I stop you for a second? We're not seeing your screen. Can you reshare?
Yes, I can. Thank you for telling me that. Share screen again. Thank you for stopping me.
There we go. Thank you.
Now, are you seeing my PowerPoint slide?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go over what I did just a minute ago, but I went to the middle school and took some screenshots to show you how to access the parent portal from home. You can do this on your phone, by the way. You do not have to have a computer. You can access this via a cell phone as well. But you click right here and you can click Campus Parent. Before you can log in, you have to get a username and password from your district leaders. Your school principals, I'm sure, can tell you how to do that. Once you get your username and password, you click here and you log in, you're going to see your child's information. You have to scroll down somewhat to see SLDS portal, and you're going to click right there to access it. So once you click that link, it's going to take you to a view like this.
I'm sorry to stop you again, Ms. Metz. It's stuck on your PowerPoint presentation. So if you've clicked into like a web browser, you'll need to share that too.
All right, so we didn't like what I just did. Let's try again, screen share. Okay, so what are you guys seeing now?
We see you on slide 3.
Okay, perfect. All right, at least it's okay. So it's an adventure. Sorry. So this is where you would click on SLDS to access your child's information once you log in. You'll probably have to scroll down because it's going to be further down. When you first log in, you probably want to see this part and scroll down to come to SLDS portal. This is the top portion here is what you're going to see when you log in. You have a choice. You have tabs at the top you can click on, or these tiles you can click on. They say the same thing. You see performance, resources, testing, my career plan, and log out. Students that are 6th grade and up will have my career plan. Students below that will not have this my career plan tile. If you have more than one child when you log in, this is where you would do the drop down to select your different children from there. So we're going to start with the performance tile. Once again, you can click the tabs or the tile. And once you click there, you're going to see the screen right here. You're going to see hyperlinks that say Georgia Student Growth Model Student Report and Georgia Milestones Individual Student Report. What I've done is I've already clicked on these to make it expand, because to see these reports, you've expanded, then you have to click on these blue arrows. And what it will do is it will download a PDF to your computer that will give you details about your child's growth model and your child's milestones results. You can always export these with a floppy disk. There are different format options, or you can press the printer icon and you can get just do a PDF printed plain version of it. So next, below those two hyperlinks, the first thing you will see on your child's performance page is going to be their attendance. This is an older child, and what it'll do, it'll list every single school year and the number of days that your child has missed via their entire academic career since they started school. So sometimes you see trends and patterns in here that you might understand why your child might have some gaps, because they might have gotten the flu one year, missed 3 weeks of school, or they had the chicken pox or something like that. But it gives you trends and patterns and to see how many days they've missed overall in their academic career. Right below their attendance chart, you'll see the assessment results. Now these are going to be the milestones results. You see each result is listed by the type of assessment they took and what time of year, like this is spring, and grade 4, 2016. So you have each time they took it, each grade they took it, and what year it was. If they took a retest, it will also be showing in here. Now what the big fat bar here is the stretch flexile band. Ideally, you want your child somewhere in that blue big fat bar. The light blue line through the middle is a midpoint. That is the middle of where other children have scored. Now the red star is where your child has scored on every single assessment, the Language Arts Milestones EOG. If you hover over the red star, a pop-up box will appear, so you can see exactly where your child scored. Like this child scored an 840. The Lexile range was 925 to 1070, which is that blue band. The midpoint, which is 997, which would be right there in that dark blue line, it tells you what grade they're in and what year they took the assessment. Now I know Lexiles is a very complicated concept, and if you want to research some more on your own, we always have this additional information about Lexile here for you to learn more about it. You could also find books in there on your child's Lexile level. It has lots of resources in there for parents to help their child with their reading level. Below the Lexile scores, you'll see your child's assessment results. Like we have pre-K and kindergarten results. This child has 2 GKIDS results. That's what GKIDS is kindergarten results. And then above it, you see all the milestones results, whatever assessment they took and when they took it. Now, above the GKIDS, you see the first milestones results. And you see that ELA stands for English Language Arts. Then you have math, science, and social studies. There are 2 numbers in each box. The first number represents the level of achievement. The legend for you to be able to interpret what that means is right here at the bottom. So you see a 1 will be coded red, like this one right here, and it's beginning learner. 2 is a developing learner. 3 is in that one right there, proficient learner, and 4 is distinguished. The second number in the box tells you exactly where your child scored on that particular assessment. So you can see this child went from a 479 to a 491 to a 504 to a 560. So you see trends and patterns in how they're doing by overall assessment results. I want to encourage you to go in and click. If you click on the GKIDS or pre-K results, a report will come up with every single domain and standard they assessed in pre-K and kindergarten. Now, knowing this, they assess children in kindergarten formally at least 3 times a year, and what you're looking at here is the end of the year assessment data. Now, this milestones EOG and EOC data is a one-time assessment result. But I would encourage you to click on these results as well. So if I click on one of those assessment points, it will break it out. I can see exactly this is 2018, 2019, 6th grade. Then I have 2017, 2018, 5th grade. So I can see all my child's assessment results by year. The benefit of this to you is that you can see how they did by domain. Because I know I've heard people all their lives go, oh, I'm just terrible in math. I'm just terrible in math. Well, sometimes you have strengths in math. You just think you might not be so good at math. So if you look at this child's results, expressions and equations, they scored a 2, which means they're at the monitor level. But everywhere else, they scored a remediate learning. But the year before that, they had a level 2 in numbers and operations and base 10 and operations and algebraic thinking. And in geometry, they scored level 2. Why am I saying this? The reason I'm saying this is I can go into the results, and if I know that my child is struggling with math, maybe I can see somewhere that I might need to help my child by specific areas, like measurement and data, numbers, operations, fractions. Well, you know what? I got news here. I think most adults are weak in fractions. I think we all can use some remediation in that. So, but it just kind of gives you an idea of where to start with your child. Also, on the scale score, a lot of times those numbers are just abstract numbers. Again, you know if your child passed or failed. What's really neat, I like this, is because you can click on that number right there, and it's going to produce a visual for you. You can see exactly where your child scored compared to everybody else in the school and the district and the state on that same assessment. That's math on the EOG. So that will let you know exactly how your child is doing comparatively. Sometimes numbers aren't everybody's friend, and pictures seem to speak 1,000 languages. So maybe that'll help you understand where they are overall by that particular content area. And you can do that with every single content area. Now I'm going back to the main screen. Below the assessment results, you can see growth, student growth. And so it's kind of confusing because the colors are red, green, and white, or yellow, gold, like the assessment results. But I want to talk to you about the low growth here is 1 to 34%. We're dealing with percentages here. We want every child to at least have typical growth, which is 35 to 65%. High growth is 66 to 99%. So we're looking up here on this child, we're comparing 3rd and 4th grade results here. You have to compare 2 years of assessment data. So I'm taking their 3rd grade EOG language arts and the 3rd grade EOG math. and comparing it to their 4th grade EOG language arts and their 4th grade EOG math. The next year, you're comparing 4th and 5th grade. The next year, 5th and 6th grade. So when I'm looking here, the first number in the parentheses tells me that this child grew 57% in 4th grade with a score of 491. The next year, they grew high growth of 66% with a score of 504. So this child is compared this year from 491 to this year. It tells you she's compared to everybody else in that cohort that scored a 491 in 4th grade. When they go to 5th grade, they're compared against each other. She grew more than most others that scored a 491. So in this year, she's going to be compared against everybody who scored a 504. Well, the next year, she scored a 560. So she grew 97%. And the same thing goes here the same way. She had low growth compared between 3rd and 4th grade. She only grew 18% in 4th grade with a score of 460. And she's now measuring against every other child in the 4th grade that made a 460. The next year, she scored a 524. She had 99% growth. And then she's compared to by 524. The next year, she made 495. She didn't grow quite so much, but the others did. So she only had 51% growth, but she had typical growth, which is still good. I know that's kind of complicated, and I'll be glad to take any questions you have about that. Now, I know that Social Circle does map data, map assessments. You can also see your child's most current map assessment results by scrolling down that same screen. Now, I have these in red boxes to show you. You have to know which assessment you're looking for. Now, this is MAP ACT. Well, my student I'm looking at is just in middle school, so I'm looking at the MAP Georgia milestone comparisons. So when I do that, if I just click on the colored bar right here, it is going to show me my child's most recent results. When I do, it comes up to be a report that looks something like this. It has all the details, and you will take this gray bar to scroll over to see the rest of the results. And you can also print those off with a floppy disk and or the printer. Now, so what, now what? You know where maybe the years your child didn't have great attendance, so you may have gaps from 3rd grade, or you know how they're doing in reading by their Lexile scores, or you know they didn't do well in the language arts or math assessment, or they're not growing. What can you do to help your child? That's the beauty in this, in the parent portal. So you know where your child is. Now we're going to click this resource tab or the key, and there's a tile and there's a resource tab at the top you can't see. There you go, right there. So once I click it, what's going to appear is going to be my child's current schedule. So see, I can click on any of my child's classes that my child's taking. Like I'll click on math, for example. When I click on math, it's going to open up this resource page for you. And what you see is I have math grade 8 highlighted. Right under this column, every single 8th grade math standard is listed here. I just did a small screenshot. As you see, I have this particular standard highlighted. Use square root and cube root symbols to represent solutions to equations. When I click on it, here are 5 resources that I can watch or my child can watch to help build their understanding within that particular standard. I can go through and pick whichever standard I want to. And that's great if your child's on grade level. You can go here and just click on these, and I took a screenshot to show you this. This is like Khan Academy, and it's what a video. The child can sit there and watch. It's got a teacher teaching the lesson. So they can go in and watch that and maybe help reinforce what their teacher's trying to teach them in the classroom. But, you know, I know that sometimes students struggle. As a former teacher, you know, I had students that needed some remediation, or they just needed to remember how they did some things like in 6th grade and 7th grade math that built up to this point in 8th grade where they should be able to do what I'm asking them to do in the classroom. Well, the power in this is I can go back. Now I'm on the same screen right here. You see that learn button right there? What I did is I went and I did the down turkey buzzard. Sorry about that. Hang on a second. Trying to get so you can see what I'm trying to. That's not it. You click the down arrow next to learn, and all the content areas that your children participate in school are listed here. So what I can do is I can go to mathematics and I can take my child back to 6th grade math. I can come back to 6th grade math, and you see here Here's sixth grade math. Look, all the standards of sixth grade math. I can come here and find anything my child needs to have some background knowledge built up in and reinforced, and they can do the same thing. Click on any other resources over here to help tutor your child to remember, oh yeah, I remember Ms. Metz doing that in sixth grade math. Oh, I remember that now. To help them refresh their memory about what they did in the classroom or to build their background knowledge. And so the last thing I'm going to show you tonight is some of you will have my career plan. Your children are participating to build their portfolio for graduation. It's the Bridge Roll requirement. If you click on it, you can see where your child is in the process of it. You cannot do anything in it. Your children are currently going sixth grade on up. They're going into take aptitude screeners and interest inventories and build their portfolio for graduation. So that's the last thing you can see on there. And that is it. And that is my contact information. If anybody wants to call me to ask me questions, if I'm not online doing something like this, I'll be glad to take your phone calls, or you can always email me your questions and I will be glad to address them and answer them as best I can.
Ms. Metz, we want to thank you for sharing with our parents this afternoon. This was a wealth of information, and parents do want to share with you that we've administered the map at least twice. I know in the fall and again right before Christmas. So I encourage you to get with your child, review that information that is in SLDS. If you have questions, contact your teacher or your principal or assistant principal at your school, and they'll be willing to assist you with it. Again, I say to you, it's going to be so important that we partner together to ensure that our kids get the best education. Where their weaknesses are, we can partner with you to make sure there's growth afterwards. So please look through that information. You have questions, if you would like for your school to do a semi presentation similar to what Ms. Metz did, we're going to record this. This is being recorded. So parents, you can always go back and look at this and look at the steps to locate your map information as well as your EOC or EOG information. Ms. Metz, thank you so much, and we look forward to having you back. And this is great for our community to be able to hear this information from DOE. And again, our DOE department, I have to give them kudos. They do a great job of communicating with us, providing a wealth of resources so that we can use with our families. And we are so appreciative of Mr. Woods and his team for making this happen for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, we're down to the part of the question and answering session with me. And Dr. Boo, if you will share a few questions, I'll be glad to answer anything that you may have before you.
Yes, sir. We've had quite a few questions actually submitted earlier in this week to the survey link that was available out on our website. So we'll start with those, and then if time allows, we'll get to the questions that were submitted here during our session.
Okay.
One of the questions that directly relates to the information that Ms. Metz was presenting has to do with whether or not high school students will have to take the EOCT this year.
Yes, we are taking the EOC this year. As many of you are aware, the State Board of Education approved of Governor Wood's proposal to have the EOCs count for 0.01% of the grade. Yes, we will be taking it at the high school, and those who are working remotely will have to come in to take that exam. That's something you cannot take online. Our high school administrative team is working with our assessment director to put those things in place. We will be communicating well in advance as to when those dates are and what times of those examinations. So we're excited about it to show the growth that our students, the things that our students have learned. We have a group of teachers who are working well with our students, whether they're remotely or face-to-face. So we're excited about seeing what those results are. Okay.
Great. I know that as we're monitoring our MAP results, that the schools are really pleased with the progress that they're seeing from fall into the winter administration. So we really are looking for some great results on those. Another thing that relates to Ms. Metz's presentation actually has to do with our school counselors. one of our parents has a question about whether we are considering moving to using a full counseling position at the elementary and then a separate full counseling position at the primary school.
And that's something we're looking into as we go into the budget phase. As many of you know, for schools, we start our budget process in January and it ends up in August. And we're seriously looking at adding an additional counselor to that position, to those schools. So we'll look through the monies we receive, and if we're able to do so, we will put that in place. I think the counseling, the social work, all of those positions are so important for our students. As you know, we've been through the pandemic since March to now. There are many issues that students are dealing with from this pandemic issue, as well as some fears that they may have. So yes, we will be strongly looking into that. And as we work out our budget, we'll be transparent with the public to let them know what positions that we will be implementing, putting into place.
And Dr. Hooker, we've got another parent who has questions about the rationale that we have for providing social emotional learning training to our students, and then also wants to know what are we doing to help support our teachers.
Well, that's a great question about SEL, social emotional learning. I do want to share with all who are participating tonight that one of the first things we had discussed in January or December of last year of 19, before we went into 20, we had already discussed about implementing SEL, but starting with the adults first, making sure that the adults buy into the social emotional learning, that they are capable of teaching lessons to our students, because it's important that our teachers believe in it in order for students to believe in it. The other piece for our students is that they need it. Whether we want to admit it or not, a lot of our students are coming to schools with serious issues, and they do not always have the resources to get outside counseling or receive counseling. I'm not saying that our counselors have their LPCs, licensed practical counselors, but they are there to run groups, individual counseling, and to meet the needs of our students. And we have a great group of counselors that are in place now that are working hard to meet the needs of all of our students. The third thing you talk about are our adults, our teachers, our faculty and staff. One of the things we did is offered EAP. I believe I'm getting those, employee assistance program. Thank
Yes.
you. Put those in place for our teachers as well, where as a family, they can receive counseling up to 6 sessions for different areas. If it could be grief this time, it could be marital problems the next time or whatever, but they're also services too. And our employees are taking advantage of that. Whether we want to believe it or not, all of us have issues. It's how we deal with those issues that are so important. But for us to provide that extra layer to provide free counseling, because as many of you know, if you go outside and pay it out of your pocket, that can be anywhere from $75 to $175 an hour. So we extended that to our employees, and we're excited to offer that to them as well, because we want them to be mentally and physically and spiritually ready to go forth and teach our students. Okay.
Well, and they actually do teaching of the teachers too, because we have so many opportunities for professional learning and opportunities for them to work together and in order to improve their craft. One of the questions has to do with whether or not we're considering mandating mask wearing on buses and in schools at all times.
Okay. And that's an issue that many school systems grapple with. And I, like you, at times, I believe, and this is Robbie P. Hooker speaking, it's important for us as adults to model for our students as to what's important. I take the example of once we get in our car, the first thing we do is buckle up. The same thing as parents, we should be modeling, and as faculty members and staff members, modeling for our students, putting on the mask, doing appropriate social distancing. My only concern with mandating masks, will you have a disciplinary consequence? The first time suspension, in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension. We're taking away the learning from students when we do that. Here's what I believe is so important, is that students realize the importance of wearing the mask. you're helping someone else by when you're in those transitions, you're in the cafeteria, you're on the bus, you're helping your neighbor by wearing your mask. We have to model that for them. Mandating, there are many systems that say they mandated, but what are their consequences if you don't? I haven't heard of many saying, well, we just kick them out, we suspend them. I think we have to model it for them, counsel them, and let them understand the truth, how powerful it is for them to wear it, what it does to keep us in school safely. I know that not all students like wearing it at all times. We didn't ask you to wear it at all times. We asked you to wear it during transitions, when you're in close proximity of working with your teachers, and when you're on the bus. Those are the things that we're asking you to wear your mask. All right.
Thank you. We also had a student actually write in a question. This particular student, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have assumed gender, but this student was concerned because they had a schedule change after the start of the school year due to class sizes changing.
And that's a concern. And let me ask you that I would encourage that student to go back and speak to their administrators as to why that took place. So that's a conversation they need to have with their administrators and their counselors as to why those schedules were changed. And we're going to have more of that as more students decide to come back from remote learning. And I want to remind parents, if you decide remote learning isn't working for you, please contact your administrator and talk to them as to how you can transition back in to face-to-face learning. I think it's important that we're doing our best to give the best education on both levels, face-to-face as well as remotely.
We have another student who's asked if it would be possible at the middle and high school for them to create a debate team.
I would love that. I would love that. And I'm used to teams of that nature. I would say speak to your administrator, but before you speak to your administrator, solve the problem by reaching out to a faculty member who will be willing to serve as the advisor for that group. Debate teams, mock trial teams, things of that nature. Please get with an adult there on that campus who will be willing to serve as the advisor for that. That would be a wonderful thing for our students. Another extracurricular activity to participate in.
We have another family who's asked and shared concerns that we're familiar with, and that is that living in several areas of our county, that it's really difficult to get Wi-Fi connection or to even receive cell service. And they're wondering at what point if we could help with that, and what our plans and thoughts are on that perspective.
Well, and that's a great question to ask at this time, because Mr. Todd Hilton has worked, who's our technology director, has worked very closely with our city manager, Mr. Dale, as well as with Amber McKibbins, to find the areas in which we can put a hotspot in. And currently, I know there's one in Dove's Landing, there's one at Knox Chapel, they're looking to put one at Mars Hills, they're looking to put one at a fire station. There are several other places, but if you know of an area that a public place where we can put a hotspot, we're willing to do that. But in some rural areas in Zone 5, in some parts of Jersey City, being that there are no towers, cell phone towers, or anything of that nature, even if we put it out there, you would not receive, even if we put a hotspot, there would not be an adequate enough services. So we're working with our city leaders to finding locations where we can put hotspots to assist our students who are working remotely or need access to internet.
And Dr. Hooker, they might be interested about the conversation that's going on at the state level regarding increasing Wi-Fi into rural areas.
Right, and our governor at his State of the State address mentioned that they're putting close to, I think, $200 million to increase broadband. And that's part of the state legislation as they go through for the next 40 days of talking about that. I was on a phone conversation with an AT&T executive there, looking, other AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and others are looking to put cell towers in rural areas. So our government, our local, state, and federal government are looking for ways to increase our internet service for those who are in rural areas. And we are very appreciative of those things that they're doing to make it happen. Because as you know, we learned very quickly back in March of the equity divide when we have students, we're sending students home with devices, but they are unable to connect because of cell services or internet services.
Thank you. A parent has a follow-up question about the schedule change issue. And
Yes.
just wanted to make sure that we were aware that part of the concern was, what are we going to do over the summer in order to try to prevent those changes needing to happen mid-year again?
And that's a great question to ask. One of the things that we do differently here is that when it comes to our master schedules, we do not wait to April and May to start scheduling. We start scheduling in February and March, start doing that. So that should help us in advance to look at those classes that may be large so that we offer an additional class so the classes will not be we will not have as many students in those classrooms. We're working to resolve those problems for next year. Those who work with me at the district office, they know I use the famous word, we're on the runway for year 22. And we've already started that process of planning for year 22 and not waiting to the last minute. So hopefully next year we will not have those issues. But parents, I do want to share with you, I believe, and we as a district office believe, it's going to be important for us to offer remote learning next year as well, because there are some parents who still do not feel comfortable in sending their kids to school because of the pandemic. So that will be a services that will be offered next year as well. Okay.
Thank you. A parent has a follow-up question about class size.
Mhm.
And they have concerns about the fact that because students are coming back from virtual learning into face-to-face, that because of the growing number and the number of students in the classrooms, that it's becoming more difficult for people to socially distance.
And you're correct. We do not have large classrooms. What we're asking teachers to do is to remind students, when you're sitting that close to students, mask up. Um, and to mask up, and when if you have questions, students, when a teacher comes to you, that he or she mask up as they answer your questions. We're taking extra precautions in cleaning our classrooms, thanks to Dr. Watkins and her crew, and working with ABM to ensure that our classrooms are defogged every afternoon, making sure that our building, our restrooms and things have paper towels and things are cleaned so that we can stop the mitigation of the coronavirus within our buildings.
Thank you. Another parent mentioned a concern regarding virtual students compared to face-to-face students, and mentioned a concern about fairness and accuracy in grading. And this parent pointed out some concerns, like for MAP administration, that some students took the MAP test at home and some students took it there at the school. Could you address how we're responding to appropriateness with grading and thinking about how we can be as fair as possible for all of our students in the different learning instructional models?
Right. And let me share with you, administering that MAP remotely was something new for all of us. We're working through that with our assessment director, Lisa Williver, as to how we can get accurate information from the MAP, whether it's done remotely or in the buildings. For those major tests, I would love to see students come in to take those exams. We will work through that. We will work with our administrators as well as with Ms. Williver to ensure that we're doing the right things for all students, not just some students, for all students. So I would ask that parent too to have a conversation with the administrator in the building of that building with their concerns.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another parent asked when we might be putting in a replacement playground at the primary school.
Well, I have good and I have bad news for you. The good news is that we are looking to start building the new elementary school within a year or two. And let me tell you this process. This has been on the books, I could say, for 7 or 8 years of building a new elementary school. We've taken that a step further this year. Had an opportunity to meet with the officials from DOE. We had an architect in. We had Mr. Chris Irwin, who works with Carol Daniels, to meet with us. Recently, I believe it was last week on the 14th, if I'm not mistaken, had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Jeff Crouch, who's an architect. He has sent me the documents for us, and he's going to walk us through the process of how we secure funds from the Department of Education, um, and other things that we have to do properly in order to start building. Once we get that started, it's going to take 14 months to build a new elementary school. So we're working on that. Our goal, our goal is to hopefully 23, 24, that we will have the new school open. So we have a vision for getting that done. But the key thing for us, before we get that done, we want to make sure the budget is balanced and we have some reserve funds in place. And I want to give shouts out to our CFO, Ms. Nicole Cross, who works tirelessly. She and Ms. Karen Monroe in that department, and working with the State Department and other entities to ensure that we're on the right track to making that happen. And I believe, and Ms. Cross is with me on this, is that we can get this done. We are being very frugal in how we're spending our money. We're spending it on the right thing. We're making cuts in several departments and other areas to make this happen. Our kids deserve the best facilities in the state, and we're working to make that happen. So 23, 24, that is our goal, to have that built. But we're doing the back process right now. And it's a tedious task, but we're up for it, and we're working hard to make it happen.
Thank you. Another question came in asking about our decision-making processes when we're determining whether or not to return back to face-to-face learning. They mentioned a concern about the delay in announcements and things like that, and just the difficulty that that presents for them in making plans for their own children. Could you address that?
Sure. And any delay, I take full responsibility for that, because I really want to push for face-to-face to get students back into the building. But I do want to share with you at some point, we not only have our nurse involved, we have 3 to 4 people involved. We've met with the CEO of the hospital, as well as a pediatrician, Dr. Andrea Hill, and getting their input about returning face to face. I can share with you, as of tonight, you will get an email tomorrow and a call out saying that we will start on the 25th. We will return to face on the 25th. But it's important for you to understand also, we have to look at our adults as well. We have had issues with adults having COVID or being quarantined, which impacts the instruction that we can give, or transportation, having enough individuals to transport our kids. Any delay of communication, that's on me, and I can correct that. I have a team who do not mind correcting me and telling me we need to get this out faster, and I'm very appreciative of that. And we will make things, I can promise you, communicate with you in a more timely manner.
And Dr. Hooker, I know that sometimes the delays, while they're frustrating, on the other side, we're waiting to try to have the most accurate possible information. And sometimes we know that we've got to try to split the two, about waiting to have the most accurate information, but also not making it impossible for parents to be able to do what they need to do for their children. And so I know that that response about schools reopening for face-to-face learning on Monday will be a huge relief to the parent who sent in the comment about what an awful job that they're doing as the homeschool teacher. So I'm confident that they are going to rejoice, as will lots of parents in the community, and our teachers and our administrative teams, as well as our cafeteria team and our transportation folks. They've missed the kids. They are hungry to have them back. They are looking forward to seeing all those smiling faces, and for us to be able to get back to learning in the model that really benefits most of our students the most. So we're excited about that opportunity.
Yes, we're all excited about having our kids back on campus and interacting with them. Again, parents, I encourage you to remind your kids mask. We do offer masks to students, but I encourage you to send your child to school with a mask on. And if they don't, we have appropriate supplies to give them one as well. Any other questions?
We had some questions actually that just came in regarding whether or not the new campus would be pre-K through 5th grade or an elementary campus just 3rd through 5th grade.
No, it will be K through 5, and that's been on the books for 7 or 8 years as well. A K through 5 two-story building. Right now, it's equipped to hold 900 students, but if we look at our populations at both schools, I believe the elementary school is sitting at 383. The primary school is sitting at 460 something. I may be off on that, 456, 56. I may be off. So that's a little bit more than 900. We would love to expand that to either 1,000 or 1,100 students to start out with, because you don't want to build a new building and then immediately have to add on because we didn't do it right. So we're working with that. And when we get to that phase, I think it's so important to get community input and to also include our student voices in building this building. You've got to realize when you build a school, it's not going to be there for 5 years. It's going to be there for 30 to 50 years. So we have to think long range as to what we want this building to be. And we want this to be the best for our students, technology-wise, class size. So we will be asking for your input. Again, it's going to be a 2-story K through 5. Okay.
Great.
Any other?
Oh, there's a question about where would the new school be located?
Over at the primary school, Stevens Park. We will start there and working with that area and getting that situation to build the new elementary school. And our hopes are to demolish the primary school. We still have some ideas as to what we can do with the elementary school and assist the high school and the middle school from the overcrowdedness there. But those are things we're working on. Again, we will keep you informed. That's the most important thing, so that you will know what we're doing. Because again, a school is there for 50 years later. Some of the schools are still in great shape. So we want to build an outstanding students for our students in our community.
Dr. Hooker, one more. Could you talk with our folks that are listening about our processes for monitoring growth in the area and potentially new homes and new buildings and things? How will we allow that to impact our plans as we build the new school?
It's very imperative that we keep our lines of communication open with our city leaders. Something that the community may not know, but once a month, myself as well as Mr. John Callahan, our board chair, meets with our mayor, Mr. David Kennan, and Ms. Adele Schumer every month. We meet with them every month to hear what subdivisions have asked to come in, the impact that's going to have upon our student population. How can we prepare for that as well? We have a great partnership. We communicate, and I think that's important for any district to be in communication with city leaders when you talk about development, because that has a huge impact on our class size. So we're working, and we started that, I believe, in January of this year, and that has worked out quite well so far.
Great. And that was our last question. We really appreciate all of our parents and staff members who tuned in. Thank you for asking the questions. Thank you for taking time to ask the questions on the online survey ahead of time as well. We appreciate you. It is our absolute pleasure to get to partner with you in the raising of your children. And we look forward to having additional conversations so that we can make sure that you have the information that you need in order to make the best decisions, the best educational decisions for your children. So if for some reason we didn't get your questions answered, please make sure to email me in the morning or to email your school principal, and we will do our best to get your questions answered really quickly. Thank you again for your time and energy. And also let us know if you need help with that SLDS tool.
Okay, and just want to remind parents, we have one more, I believe, town hall meeting, and we'll be sharing those dates out at a later time with you. Again, our job is to communicate with you and to get input from you to make our system a better place for your students to learn. All right, thank you and good night.